Lords of the Long Box, episode 147. Happy new comic book day to you. We got a big MCU scoop from our man Mikey Sutton, and then we got a long-term spec list. And if we got some time, boys, we're gonna do a collector series, man. There's a couple of questions you guys have been asking, so hang out and let's see what we got, boys and girls. You know how we like to do. We do just like
bust it. Shake and bake and pull it back.
Oh my God.
Somebody show me something. Hold on and get some, boys.
That is why they can't compete.
So good evening to all you troglodytes and chuds. Chuds, that's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller. And speaking of chuds, say what's up to my man Otto from the Grotto.
That's right, Chud. That was a great movie from the 80s, if everybody remembers that movie. So what's up, everybody? It's Otto from the Grotto coming to you live and direct. Happy to be here tonight. Got some great books to talk about. So let's get it rolling.
No spoiler either in Ryan's Otto screen there. Say what's up to my man Nemesis Prime. What's up, Justin?
What's going on, guys? I am down with the sickness here in Jersey, trying to survive. So let's get through the show and do it right.
That's right. First of all, the show is sponsored by KRScomics.com. Go to KRScomics.com. Use the discount code of LOTLB to get 10% off any KRS Comics exclusives. This show is also brought to you by the GeekySwagShop.com. Use the discount code of LOTLB to get 15% off anything in the GeekySwagShop.com, including that handsome shirt that Otto has on. And I'm repping 3 Men in the Basement red variant shirt.
Love it.
If you haven't seen my Instagram post, I know it's kind of chilly. It's getting chilly, not in California yet, at least Southern California. It was 80 degrees today, but not everybody can wear t-shirts. So if you're interested in the Lords of Long Box hoodie, we're going to have some of those available. So I need to get a head count of how many we're going to get, and we're going to get it through my man, the GeekySwagShop.com. The show is also brought to you by our friends at Rocket Comics. Go to RocketComics.com. Go to Instagram at rocket.comics or Facebook at Rocket Pressing. Tell them the Lord sent you and get 20% off any one order for pressing. If you submit like 10 books, you get 20% off of those 10 books. 5 books, 20% off. There's, you see the prices, $10 a book. If you want it to get it cleaned as well as pressed, it's another $5. So you're going to save yourself a good chunk of change there. So if you have, it's only on the one order, but that one order could be 10 books, 20 books, 30 books, or whatever. Later on in the show, when we're done with the breaking news, I'm going to talk to you about some other things they do. And I also have some stuff that Rocket Comics sent me that he could show the before and after pressing he did, and also some grade bumps that he's done. So we want to ramp this up because con season is right around the corner. It seems like it's almost like 365 days now. It's crazy, man. But let's get right to it, boys and girls. All the sponsors out of the way. So you know what we do, right? It's time for that cannonball.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen. Cannonball!
All right, and this is a Mikey Sutton exclusive, and so in his Geekosity page, he picked random winner, and this week's winner is Thanura Ravindra. I hope I said that right. It's a Lords fan and Mikey Sutton fan from down under. So let's see what he's got for us, boys and girls.
What is up, guys? This is Thanura Ravindra coming to you from Australia, repping Geekosity. Now, our main man, Mikey Sutton, has news that Excalibur will be developed as a movie, maybe even a trilogy. Now, stay tuned to Lords of the Long Box and keep digging in those long boxes.
All right, thank you for Ravindra. That was very impressive. He went in costume. He even had some graphics in there. But hey, if you've been watching this channel, man, we have been talking about Excalibur. Has been coming for a minute now. It's been on a long-term spec list that they want to do something with it. You got what's his name? You got Jon Snow's going to be playing the Black Knight, all kinds of stuff. So It's coming, boys and girls. So this was originally reported by my colleague, the Black Knight, in August. That's as Mikey Sutton is saying this. We remember Black Knight broke this way back when, on August 28th, I think, is when I looked up the last show. It's looking like Marvel Studios will proceed with Excalibur as a trilogy of theatrical films based on the Chris Claremont Alan Davis comic book series. Excalibur will be a hybrid of fantasy and comedy featuring time travel, magic, and superheroics. This is part of Kevin Feige's grand plan to inject new creative blood into the mutant franchise. In addition to the Black Knight, Captain Britain, I am hearing these series of movies will include the debut of a cult hero in the UK, Death's Head. That's right, boys and girls, Death's Head. So we've been talking about this for a minute now, man. Back in August 28th, we said that Kevin Feige really digs Excalibur movies and they want to put something into development. And that's why they got Kit Harington is going to be leading the team of Excalibur, along with Captain Britain and a few other folks. And a matter of fact, based off of that, we also got a long-term spec list that is very Excalibur heavy. Shout out to everybody in the live chat. So you got a bonus, man. You got a scoop this week, and also you got a long-term spec list. So they're thinking about doing 3 Excalibur films, right? So if you haven't been familiar with our long-term spec list, it's a reserve list that the studio, in this case, Kevin Feige, has put a reserve on these characters. He wants to use them in an Excalibur movie. This is happening, folks. If they got a reserve on it, and we're hearing this, and we reported the Black Knight reported back in August 28th, we think Excalibur is going to happen. So let's get right to it, boys and girls. We're going to do the long-term spec portion of this show. And let me pull up the handsome graphics that I spent all day slaving over since Ryan is still on the disabled list. Let's go with the first name on the list is, and let me pull it up right now, kind of anti. There we go. We're finding that Kitty Pryde is being put in reserve to be used in one of the Excalibur films that are coming up. She was actually one of the original members of Excalibur, but what is her first appearance, Otto?
You got X-Men 129. 129, iconic book, God Spare the Child, which is an amazing book because that's the first time the Hellfire Club comes into play. You start to get the beginning of the Dark Phoenix saga. I say this a lot, but this is true for this book. You should own this book in your collection. And what's interesting about this book is if you talk to people who went to local cons, such as Very Gary and other comic book vendors, this was like one of the top 5 books that people were looking for. So this is a very popular book. It's an iconic book. If you're an X-Men fan, you should own this book. Justin, are prices creeping up on this book? What's going on with it?
Yeah, there's actually some recent sales. I mean, a 9.8 just went in September for just under $1,600. GPA at a 9.8, you're looking at just under $1,400. But 9.6, that is a drop off and a half for $332 sold in November.
We talked about this on the collector series. The drop off,
unbelievable.
And this book, would you say this is right on the cusp of Bronze Age, modern?
Yeah.
Copper modern, that 40-cent cover. So this is quite a drop off between 9.8 and 9.6. But I mean, I have this book. I have it signed by Chris Claremont because I have the complete run. And I was like, one day I'm going to grade giant size all the way up to like 142, right? The Days of Future Past. But I mean, this book didn't used to be this high. But this goes to prove that most key appearances in a 9.8 are going to fetch good dollars. I mean, this is first appearance Kitty Pryde along with some other things. I mean, this is also classic Claremont and Byrne, arguably the 2 best to ever do X-Men. Let's go on the next one, which is this is more of what I like on a spec book, man. This is a little known character that I want to pull up right now. Let's make sure I have the white graph.
This was a tough one, but you know that X-Men 129, that's a multiple first appearance book. So that's something you shouldn't sleep on also.
Hold on. Let me make sure I have it here. What is next on the list is okay. Is that Excalibur book? Man, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find it.
You got a lot of Excalibur in this tonight, so you're going to hear that a lot.
Yeah. Where is it?
Excalibur 46.
Yeah.
What we're looking for.
Yeah.
And 47.
Where is the graphic? Let me do the next one on the list and I'll go back to it as soon as I have it. So let's do the next on this list is, well, we should have done it because he's tied to Kitty Pryde.
Yeah.
What is it, Otto?
That's Lockhead from Uncanny X-Men 166. 166 was the
Actually Lockheed.
Lockheed.
Lockheed. That's a totally different movie, but
Yeah.
drink if you had Otto making a mistake within the first 10 minutes. So that's
yes, exactly right. Yeah, salute to everybody if you have me making a mistake. Yes, but what's fun about that book is a character that sticks with Kitty Pryde for a long, long time. This was the Brood series. This was Claremont and Paul Smith in '83. Now I was buying this stuff off the rack, and unfortunately, this is a clear takeoff on Aliens and the Alien. The alien, if I'm saying that right, you know what I'm talking with that. And
the xenomorphs, yeah.
Yes. And it was an interesting run. Not one of my favorite storylines, but definitely part of the X-Men story, if you know what I mean. And it's a great cover. You've seen this cover a lot. I'm interested if this book has gone anywhere with prices, Justin.
Well, I mean, it's actually really interesting. 9.8 just sold last month for $120. So it's a cheap book to get.
Did it really?
Yeah. I mean, and even a 9.6 just sold this month. We're only 5 days, 6 days now into November, and the 9.6 sold for $32. So I'm sure that was just to buy it now because someone is looking to get this book, probably even crack it press and get it to a 9.8. But it could be an increase.
But but if you look at the relative percentage between a 9.8 and 9.6, it's still a big gap, right?
Oh,
if you look at that, I mean, it's a huge gap.
Unbelievable.
But I mean, this is great. You should have this anyway. I mean, this is arguably the second greatest run, which is, did I have it on the first? I'm horrible. Yeah, it's live, y'all. So on the first one, I always talked about, it's Chris Claremont and my second favorite X-Men team of Chris Claremont and Paul Smith. Paul Smith actually killed it from right. He took up right after John Byrne. He pretty much ran with it to like the 200s, I want to say.
Yeah.
But that's when I started collecting X-Men, was in the Paul Smith, Chris Claremont era. Right around like 169, 170 is when I started buying him.
Right off the rack, right, Tim? You were buying this right off the rack.
7-Eleven, dude.
Yeah, that's right.
and that's why you see this one, that little UPC box is blocked off, because this is when they started having direct editions and they started having newsstand editions. So I mean, that's what the interesting part is. So let's go back to the other book that we were talking about, and this one is the one that's this is a great spec book, because you know why? I never knew about it, to be honest with you. What is it, Otto?
It is Excalibur 46 and 47, the first appearance of Cerise, if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, Cerise or Charisse or something like that.
Yeah, which is deep in the Excalibur series. Now, this is your first appearance. Your Hulk 180, 181 issue. So you've got that. So you've got like a cameo, and then you've got the first full. So just two books that you should be going out after. Never seen these books in the wild. I'm not familiar with this character at all. You guys,
these are easily dollar bin books, man.
Yeah, you guys can go digging for that. But so
she's part of the Shiriar Guard.
Yeah.
So first cameo appearance is in 46, and then she joins the Excalibur team in 47.
Right.
And if that's why in the Mikey Sutton scoop it said they're gonna do a weird thing of like time traveling and magic and comedy. This is a really wild comic. If you ever read Excalibur, it's got all the weird trappings of magic and time travel, especially when Alan Davis and Chris Claremont, like the early stuff, like issue 1 and on. It was a really weird. It was quite a different departure from your regular X-Men books. If you remember at the time, X-Men was huge, right? So you had Excalibur, X-Men, X Factor, which was the original X-Men team. Remember that? That was huge too when it came out. I don't have the graphic on this, but I don't think there's any pricing on this. Is there, Justin?
No, there is none. There's none on the GPA. There was none sold for 46 and a 47. But I just went on eBay. You can easily buy this book for $5 and under in near mint condition.
Right.
So.
Or you go dig it in long boxes.
Oh, yeah. 50 cents a dollar. You got those great specs out there.
Like stained glass Scarlet or First Topaz, any of those. That stained glass Scarlet. Blah, blah, blah. I still can't say it, even though it's blowing up. It's on everybody's top 10 list, but it's Stained Glass Scarlet. That Moon Knight book is blowing up now. Maybe this will be it. I'm just saying, man, it's a great book. They got to put a reserve on it. So, they're going to hopefully doing a trilogy of films. So there's room for plenty of characters to come out, plenty of characters, including. So all these on this list are all reserved characters that they do want to use for the Excalibur films. And this next one, not even really tied to Excalibur, but it's good to see this because I think everybody has this in their long books, and this is your boy Longshot. What do you tell us about Longshot?
Longshot, 1985, 6-issue run. Art Adams was the artist on this, which
he did the Eternals too.
Yeah,
It's got to be some of his earlier work, man.
Absolutely, which was pretty interesting on this. Now, Longshot is actually the beginning of the whole Mojo world. And as an X-Men fan, that's a whole nother storyline that when Longshot came in. Now, Longshot had the luck, that was his thing. He was an alien, and it was just an interesting run. Something that you can read now and really, really enjoy it. At the time, I kind of wasn't digging it, but he is a real cool character, and the whole story arc that he brings into it, which is really fun. But I know this is going for some money right now, Justin, right?
Yeah, and I'm actually surprised, Otto, you didn't talk about this being a double spec book, because not only is it his first appearance, but it's first appearance of Spiral.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
She's a cool character, so he's someone who could show up in an Excalibur movie.
Yeah,
but like you can see, guys, I mean, 9.8 just sold in October for 165. You're looking at GPA right around that. But again, someone bought this book this month in a 9.6 for $70. And again, it's half one grade down cuts that price in half. So, people clearly are buying this book, and we're very early into November. So someone out there knows about these characters coming.
But I want to say, which was pretty interesting about this book, though, you guys, is remember Marvel miniseries was usually 4 issues. They went for 6 on this. So there was some legs behind us when they created this character. So
yeah, this was in the era where Marvel was doing tons of miniseries to see how they could launch characters, give them their own kind of solo series, kind of what Marvel's doing now with Disney Plus. And this is also another one where if you look at the UPC code, there is a newsstand. I wouldn't say it's a variant, but they came out with newsstand, and on the direct stand, they gave it this little weird logo there. That little shout out to anybody who knows what the name of his fucking dog is in the background there, but that's him. This is some really trippy stuff in Longshot in the Mojo world. So, I mean, kids from the 90s will probably remember that. Nobody will remember this one. I really had to go digging deep into the long boxes of research to find this one. The next one on our long-term spec list that's been reserved to be used in Excalibur movies, which kind of makes sense because this character is a huge cult following in the UK. But I didn't know this was his first appearance. And this is the ultimate spec book if you could find it. What is it, Otto?
Yeah, this is you're going to go after Transformers UK 113 for the first appearance of Death's Head. Now, I remember Death's Head in other characters, but the fact that he first showed up in a Transformers book in 1987 was really mind-blowing to me. And when you showed me this book, this is another book where I kind of just, if I had an emoji, I'd be putting it over my head saying, I've never seen this book. I don't even know where to find it. And kudos to you, Tim, for digging up the graphic for it, because that's the actual comic.
Yeah, it's the Marvel UK. Who would have thunk Death's Head would have been in a Transformers book? So and you're gonna be shocked when you see the pricing on this.
Yeah.
There is no pricing, but here it is, guys. A 6.5 signature series sold in March for $230, and prior to that, you're looking back in August of last year in a 5.5 for $125. That's it, guys. But Tim, you found one that's going on an auction right now, right? On eBay?
There's a yellow label 4.5 for $799 on eBay right now.
What?
And that's the only one I could find. I went out looking,
4.5 yellow label. Oh my God.
A 4.5 yellow label. But here's the interesting thing, man. In the UK, they got a lot of hardcore comic book fans. So Death's Head, Judge Dredd, a lot of these UK titled books that came out. I mean, sci-fi is huge in the UK. So this is right when Marvel in the 70s was making like magazine style format that reprinted a lot of books. And Death's Head, eventually there was a UK title. I'm trying to think. Hopefully our friends in the live chat here, hopefully somebody from the UK who can speak on this. But Death's Head went on to do a lot of trippy stuff. He ended up crossing over here and there, but typically he's kind of been this kind of cult following in the comics. So it's cool that it's blending over, because now that they got Kit Harington, big actor obviously from the UK. We're gonna talk about that book last, but it's only obvious that Captain Britain's coming, because that book has been spec'd on for a long time now, ever since I want to say Avengers Endgame, where Peggy Carter references Braddock. Remember that?
Yeah.
Even before that book started blowing up, but obviously he's a major part of I'm sorry, did everybody miss out? All right, so for those who are just joining us, I'll give you the scoop, man. You know what, I'll give him, since my man worked so hard on doing this, I'm gonna give you the scoop coming from our man.
What is up, guys? This is the new Revinger coming to you from Australia, repping Geekos City. Now, our main man, Mikey Sutton, has news that Excalibur will be developed as a movie, maybe even a trilogy. Now stay tuned to Lords of the Long Box and keep digging in those long boxes.
Well done, Thanura Ravindra from Australia. So let me recap. So for those who are just joining us, there's about 120 people in the live chat. Some people are just joining us. A shout out to everybody who gave a thumbs down. That's 10 thumbs down now. So thank you very much for that. That still counts as a view. So we appreciate you, even though you're so negative to us. So the scoop is the main scoop, originally reported by my this is coming from Mikey Sutton, originally reported by my colleague, The Black Knight, in August. That was on our channel. It's looking like Marvel Studios will proceed with Excalibur as a trilogy of theatrical films based on the Chris Claremont and Alan Davis comic book series. Excalibur will be a hybrid of fantasy and comedy featuring time travel, magic, and super heroics. This is part of Kevin Feige's grand plan to inject new creative blood into the mutant franchise. In addition to The Black Knight, Captain Britain, I'm hearing the series of movies will include the debut of the UK cult hero Des Head. You like that? How I just segued? We just talked about Des Head. So those who get confused, the Black Knight is another source that we use. We have Mikey Sutton, who is our source, and Black Knight is a source that still remains anonymous, who's really started giving us scoops about 6 months ago when the channel really started blowing up. But we've been around since 2015, 2016. And so when I say,
Tim, real quick, I mean, Death's Head just had a 4-issue run in Marvel, so it's random that they really they just brought him out in a 4-issue miniseries.
Excalibur too.
Yeah,
right.
So.
Along with all the X-Men stuff. And speaking of Art Adams, did you guys see that New Mutants Art Adams cover that came out today?
Yeah, that was pretty. And then the Granava X-Force.
A lot of good stuff came out today. I was running around. I was running around looking for variants today. I'll be honest.
I was at the comic shop just buying boxes. I was like, I don't have room to even buy one more comic. I need to box up all the stuff that's laying around. But I have to do a comic haul first because they're just sitting around. I'm pretty sure you're like everybody else, right? If you have a YouTube channel, you have your books, you're like, I'm gonna do a video on this, so I'm just gonna leave them sitting right here. Then you just get more and more, and then you're like, holy cow, they're all over the place, man. But so that's the scoop. And now we have a long-term spec list based on characters that are going to be reserved for the Excalibur movies. And next up on it is one we all didn't know what the heck it was, but it's pretty interesting nonetheless. Next up on our list is Pete Wisdom, who's kind of been around for a minute, man. Pete Wisdom's first appearance is Excalibur 86. What can you tell us about this? Oh, look who was the artist on there. It was our friend Ken Lashley. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, well, friend of Lords of the Logbox, Ken Lashley did the cover, and then
he did not only the cover, he did the Eternal too.
Oh, there you go. Something I didn't know. So Excalibur 86 is what you want to go after. In this book, Excalibur Wisdom, they head to Genosha, so you're getting Genosha involved again, and the storyline is really interesting to follow it. But you've got Pete Wisdom, you've got Michelle, I can't even say her name. You've got Threadgold, Black Air, just a lot of different characters who also appear in this. And
Black Air is actually the name of the team.
Yes,
as it says in the graphic there. So this is a multiple spec book. There's about 5 first apperances in it. So, but the reserve that was put on it was specifically Pete Wisdom.
Pete Wisdom, right?
I mean, Excalibur 86. Who,
But this is the theme, though, right? We're going deep in the Excalibur line.
Deep. This is deep. This is the first era. Is a Black Air is a covert secretive intelligence department, was mandated with the investigation to research of supernatural and paranormal phenomena. At first alongside, then replacing another British intelligence department, the Weird Happenings Organization, which is the WHO. You can't make any of this. I remember I talk about this run that happened like 5 years ago, and it was heavily based on the UK Marvel characters, and there was a lot of like magic, and basically all the characters in the UK were fighting off this magic source, and there was like Merlin, and there was Excalibur, the sword, and it was just really, really trippy stuff, which I love because I love anything that has to do with magic. Mordred was in it. So, that's another great spec book too for this type of stuff, but I doubt there's any pricing on this, right, Justin?
Surprisingly, a 9.8 sold last year.
How even slabbed this thing? I've never seen this before. Excalibur 86.
$67 sold last year in December, and a 9.4 just sold 2 months ago for $26.
Really?
really odd that someone's slabbing this, and then just like maybe they thought it was coming back at 9.8, and they were just like, I just got to get some money back from this, from the grading prices.
But this is a great spec book. This is when you can buy a book for cheap. And, is there a reserve on it? It's going to pop. If you are a completist, you probably have it in part of your Excalibur run.
Right.
I mean, I'm shocked Excalibur even went that high to issue 86.
Yes,
I collected them to like 1 through like 30, but then it got really weird. And then, that's when X titles were just going crazy, right? And they had to like,
I bought just the crossovers wherever,
Yeah.
if it was a crossover between X-Force, X-Men, Uncanny, and that's all I bought for Excalibur.
Yeah.
shout out to everybody in live chat. We're missing some wrenches. My man, JLS Comics, and they're missing King of the Golden State. My man, Sith Lordly is trying to hold it down as 123. You watching. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Shout out to Alex Perez, the Butcher, Inhuman Quake, Roberto Pepe, Matt Forge hanging out, killing it, tailgating. Yeah, man. So this, I love this in a book, like those Moon Knight titles. I mean, anytime that they're going to be doing a series, like a show, maybe a season, there's going to be more than one character that they're going to be using. I mean, if they're planning on doing a trilogy of Excalibur books, or excuse me, Excalibur films, and it's going to be heavily on mutants and on just kind of weird Excalibur characters. And, you have to put this one on the list, right? Boom.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why this is on it, you should have it, but also it's the first appearance of Widget. What can you tell us about Excalibur #1?
We've been talking about this for almost 6 months now. 1986, Alan Davis, Chris Claremont, the beginning of the character. You're bringing Phoenix back. You've got Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler, Captain Britain.
It's not really Phoenix though. It's what's her name? It's
but it's
Rachel Summers.
Yeah, it's Rachel Summers, but they are bringing
Yeah.
the character of the Phoenix type of character back into it.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. And just a book that you could get for under $100 in a night. Well, I'll let Justin talk about that. But
I got it for like $5. But before you go any further, I mean, Otto should have talked about this because I left it in the graphic.
Yeah.
So if you don't know who Widget is this weird little robot that is basically a time displaced consciousness of Kitty Pryde. The reason Shadowcat was actually the name they reserved, but for your X-Men history here, for the longest time they didn't know what to do with Kitty Pryde. Her name was just Kitty Pryde. We need to give her a code name, so she went from Sprite, I think, Shadowcat, and then Kitty Pryde. So I just call her Kitty Pryde.
Exactly.
But,
I've never called her. I never referred to her as Shadowcat. I mean,
there's got to be some sales data on this because we've been, everybody should have this. This is one of those things that everybody should have one in their collection.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this and we talk about it all the time. If it's under $100, just buy it at 9.8, guys. That's the last one sold for $80. And a 9.6 sold for half that at around $48 back in October, which was only last month. So people are obviously looking for this book. So again, if you see it on eBay, it's $100 or under, just go ahead and buy it. Don't bother trying to buy it raw and slabbing it. Just wasting time.
Yeah, well, we'll see until it pops and other people talk about it.
I wonder, something you should look at. I wonder what a 9.8 signed by Claremont would be, because he's doing so many shows lately. This would be a good book. You know what? This is a part of the collector series a little bit. I'm going a little bit off to the left, but I would actually buy this book at a 9.8, crack it, have Claremont sign it, and hope it comes back at 9.8. The probability is, average at best, but maybe you could do that. I would like to see that because he is doing a lot of shows lately. Plus, you could probably get a little bit of information from him about this story.
A lot of times these guys don't know. I should have asked Ken Lashley. I said, "Yo, man, did you know one of your characters is being created?" I mean, they're probably like, "Who?" Because he does get creator credit on that because he was the penciler on it. So that book is. So this one is pretty cool, man. I have one. Most X-Men collectors should have this in there, and this is an interesting character that probably is going to be used more now, and he may have in Jonathan Hickman's current run. But we're getting word that Day Tripper is being reserved for the Excalibur films. Look at that book. What is that book, Otto?
Oh, X-Men 98. This is classic X-Men. Dave Cockrum. This is the series. This is right after Thunderbird dies, right before the rise of Jean Grey becoming Phoenix. But what's really fun about this book is you've got the Sentinels involved, but I actually dug in my long box today. I pulled this out. The book that my copy actually has the Mark Jeweler insert, so I was pretty excited about that. But what's fun about this book is Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Stan Lee and Kirby actually write themselves in the book. So Claremont and Cockrum draw Kirby and Stan Lee in this during this huge fight with the Sentinels. Stan Lee's like, well, look at these youngsters, like a typical movie role. So if you have this book, you can always look in there and see Kirby and Stan Lee in the story themselves. But Day Tripper, interesting character. You've got tons of different Sentinels and just a fun book to have. And it's, a great time for the X-Men, in my opinion. One of my favorite storylines in this time for the X-Men.
So Day Tripper is also a DC character, but the real name of Day Tripper is Amanda Sefton. Real name of Jermaine Zardos, also known as Day Tripper and the Second Magic. So I think this character has a long history that just kind of obscurely started by Chris Claremont. Chris Claremont was creating characters left and right, but what are we looking at on sales on this? Whoa.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but I mean, this is you're looking at double-digit X-Men numbers. So I mean, clearly these books in a 9.8 are definitely going to pull a pretty penny. The last one did sell in October for $1,650, and a 9.6 is is a quarter.
What I'm more surprised is the 9.6 is going for 400. But like I said, like any people will do it as a collector series, but there's people that collect specifically 9.8s, especially if they can find like people go on eBay and just search 9.8. They don't care what it is. If it's an old book and they want it as a 9.8, they'll get it. Just like people hunt 9.9s and 10s. They don't care what the comic. It could be some random comic, but if it's a 10 or 9.9, they get it. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things, man. So yeah, we are moving along, and this last one on here shouldn't surprise many people at all, because if you've been know anything about Excalibur, then you know that the big boy needs to be on there. And who is it? Boom, Captain Britain #1, last one on the reserve list. Of course, it's Captain Britain. There's all kinds of rumors been said that it could be Superman, Henry Cavill. It could be anybody. But what do we got on this, Otto?
No, we've got Captain Britain #1, as you can see displayed here. And it is the UK book. It's a paper. It's different from their typical comic book paper. It's large size, so it's magazine size. And there's actually 4 stories in there. So the first appearance of Captain Britain is in it, but it's only 12 pages into the story. You've got a Steranko story. You've got a Fantastic Four story in the book itself. And the book actually came with a Captain Britain mask. And if you want to get this book, if you have this book and it doesn't have the mask, you'll get a green label from CGC saying that it's missing the mask. It'll say qualified. But just another book to have, and it's newspaper quality. So whoever you have cleaning it, make sure they're really good at it. We suggest Rocket Comics because they'll be able to work on the paper of the product itself. So, you know, this book was pressed by Erod. It was a 9.0. My book was a 9.0 brought up to a 9.4. I had it double signed. So just a fun book to have in my collection. And Captain Britain, like I said, we've been talking about it. And if Henry Cavalli becomes Captain Britain, and we've got an actor named to it. So just an interesting book.
Did you say Cavalli?
Cavalli. How do you say it?
Henry Cavill?
Cavill.
You add an extra syllable. Cavalli. He's Italian now. He's not
right,
Cavill.
He's Italian,
right. This is also Herb Trimpe. So you got a great artist working along Chris Claremont on this, and the pricing on this is blown up. I mean, it's been spec'd on for a long time now.
This is a book that is constantly going up. I mean, if you looked at GPA sale, the CGC 9.8 for $2,200. I mean, GPA is well over that. So someone who bought that 9.8 actually got a steal, and 9.6 for $600 in September. I mean, it's unbelievable, the price.
Yeah, Jesse brings up a good point, because it would be considered missing part of the book if the Captain Britain mask wasn't inside. I wonder if there's any sales data on it that when you looked it up, if was a difference.
I didn't even look at incompletes, the signatures. You know, I just always go blue label. I'm sure, I'm sure there's some of them out there that have Herb. And
there you go. Let me put you guys on the test real fast. What's the first appearance in the 616?
Marvel Team Up.
Yeah,
there you go.
66.
Yeah, no, we don't have the graphic for it, but this is one of those things where you can't afford the true first appearance of it in the UK. There's an American version in Marvel Team Up. So that book, I mean, Justin, weren't you telling me you showed me a book that was like $1,000 already?
Yeah. Someone posted that it was like a 9.8. It was on eBay.
Right.
It was one of the guys I usually hear. I think it's Chad Crow was the one who had it.
Yeah, I mean, so this is one of those things where if you can't find a UK version, go out and get the 616 version. I wonder if there's a Death's Head 616 version, but I love that Transformers book. It's just so hard to find, man.
There was even a Death's Head 2.
There was a Death's Head 2. I know
he
that.
looks more like the
Predator.
That. That's the one that I recall more.
Correct.
Exactly.
That's what I remember.
Death's Head 1 looks more like a robot. Death's Head 2, you're right. He has like these weird dreadlocks and everything.
Predator, and he was on the cover of it. And it's almost like a Mordok character, right? Like his head is a lot bigger than the body. I don't know. That's what I remember.
He literally looks like he's like a jacked looking Predator. Yeah. More robotic.
So there you go, man. That's the long-term spec list. We got some from our friend Mikey Sutton. So Excalibur's coming. They're reserving a bunch of characters from it. So it looks like, after our man Kit Harington does the Eternals, He's going to slide right up in there, do some Excalibur stuff. I mean, this is long-term spec, so get them while you can now. You know what I mean? I mean, that Captain Britain book has been hot for a minute. If you're not going to get it now, unless you got big bucks, then the ship has probably sailed you by. But the alternative would be to get that Marvel team-up book, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's to help you all out there. So since we got about 25 minutes left, man, we're gonna kick off the collector series, man. I asked some questions in the community chat about some topics you guys wanted to speak on, and so actually one of them is great. Isao Garan says the value of collecting foreign comics. How apropos, right? I mean, we just talked about that. Technically, Death's Head and Captain Britain #1 are foreign comics. I would also say that once you get something like a Werewolf by Night 32, they started distributing those in the UK. So there's a 9p variant of that. I'll call it a variant. It's the same exact book, same cover, same everything. It's just it's called a price variant, meaning it's not a US book. Right. So I mean, what would you guys say? I mean, if you can't afford the regular one, get the international one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know my boy Dave in the Cave. He's got Amazing Spider-Man Annual 1, the first appearance of Sinister Six. He's got a UK version. Still the same book. All it is a price difference, and it's UK. I had a FF49 UK, and I sold it years ago because I don't want it in UK. But now that UK pricing, people are looking for, and that's that.
Yeah. So there is some value. I'll tell you a funny story, man. My boy Frankie, I am Frack on Instagram. He bought Werewolf by Night 32 thinking it was a regular version, but it ended up being the 9p variant.
Did it really?
There you go. But now it's actually worth some coin. I mean, because obviously Werewolf by Moon Knight is blowing up. So now that there's a 9p. When I say 9p, just picture instead of a dollar sign or cent sign, it says the 9 and there's a P on it. So that's how you can tell it's a Euro variant. I showed on the Lords last week my haul video where I got some cool like Doctor Strange and Master of Kung Fu books that were in French and in Spanish.
Right.
I also couldn't afford Saga #1, so I have the Mexican variant that's in Spanish. And sometimes the international foreign, I guess you call them, I wouldn't call them foreign, I'll just say international.
International.
Sometimes they're people like to collect them because they already have all the first appearances of the regular one, and sometimes the international one has a different cover.
So it's a little color different, or it's like the inside
Saga
panel
#1. Saga the image book. The cover on it is actually silver on the Mexican version.
Yeah,
so that's kind of neat. So go ahead.
No, I just want to say when you talk about the international books, if you're a completist, then those might be books that you go after too. Because as you guys know, I'm a huge Deathstroke fan, and Teen Titans 2 is one of my favorite books. I have 2 copies of it. I have a yellow label and a blue label, both 9/8. But actually, 2 people from the Instagram community and I think the YouTube community reached out to me and say, "Hey, Otto, this might be a book that you're looking at for," and it was a Teen Titans 2, and it was the international. I think it was 12p or somewhere around there. But again, for your collecting, if you're a completist, you should go after that. Now, am I actively looking for that? No. I didn't even know it existed, to be honest with you guys. So shout out to those guys who showed it to me. I haven't bought it yet, but it's on my radar. So thank you guys.
Yeah. So the next one is a question asked by Stephen Whiteman, who said, how about the different types of collecting and collectors there are? Another topic would be the different types of variants that are out there. The scent variants, the Mark Jewelers, ABs, ratios, double covers, etc. Connecting covers is also a good one. I wanted to bring this one up because, Otto, you just talked about the Mark Jewelers variant. Why don't you expand on that so people who may not be familiar with it, you can tell them what exactly a Mark Jeweler variant is.
Yeah, so a Mark Jeweler variant is on the inside cover, right at the center staples, you have an advertisement or advertisement.
There you go.
For like jewelry. And what was
the name of the store was Mark Jewelers. That's why it's called a Mark Jeweler insert. Yeah.
And what would happen was people would either leave them in or take them out. And what would happen, and some of them had them and some of them didn't. So like the other one that had it that comes to mind is Amazing Spider-Man. I think it's first Hobgoblin.
I have a Doctor Strange #4 from the Bronze Age that has one in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I didn't even know that. So the jeweler insert was there. And does it increase the value of the book, you guys? I really don't know.
Yes, it does.
It does. Okay.
There are people who hunt Mark Jewelers inserts. So
really,
and Otto didn't speak on it, but I don't know if you even knew. But the Mark Jeweler inserts were actually released on military bases in certain states.
Interesting. So I didn't know that.
They bought the comic from whatever store that's on the Army base. This way they could buy jewelry through the mail for whomever when they were living on base. That's what the Mark Jeweler inserts came out. I believe that's when there's a couple of videos that really expanded on it, but basically that's why they're so scarce, is you were only be able to get them when you were subscribing and you bought them on a military base. They were specifically advertising military bases in the US, and they only did it in a couple states. And the Mark Jewelers is the name of the store that somehow said, hey, got it. And my man Rocket Comics actually has a way he can look. He knows if you look on the book without going through it, taking it out of like a long box, you can actually see the Mark Jeweler insert. So it's sought out by a lot of collectors. So it's just one of those things. If you already have the regular cover and you know there's a Mark Jeweler's insert, I'd have to look it up. But there's a certain it came out in the Bronze Age for a good maybe a year, and then and that's why they're sought out for the Mark Jeweler's insert. It's a pretty interesting way of collecting. It's just another side thing, you know what I'm saying? And
some of the covers actually have the little jewel. It's a stamp of a jewel of a diamond.
Yeah,
interesting.
And also the cent variants is very similar, but a little bit more wide, easier to find than Mark Jeweler inserts, and more expensive than Mark Jeweler inserts is. Marvel in the Bronze Age, they started kind of experimenting with price increases by like 5 cents. So you'll see like 25 to 30 cents. And it was only in certain states. They didn't do this nationwide. So famously, probably one of the most valuable ones is the 35-cent Star Wars #1 price variant, because they're so scarce and relative to the print runs of the regular comics. And I'm trying to think what states they did. They kind of just did it as a little pilot program where they're like, hey, let's up the price on these and we'll see where they go. So always check the price variants. That's another piece of side collecting that people do, is looking for the Mark Jeweler inserts and the price variants. It's hard to say they're variants, because when I think of variants, I think of a totally different cover. But I guess if you say it's a price variant, because the price is actually different. So yeah, but always look them up. I mean, if you want to go on eBay, just search for price variant and you'll see quite a bit of them. I want to say they started from 25 to 30 to 35 I'm trying to think what the actual price, but I know a lot of people like seasoned collectors, they look, and that's what a Star Wars #1, a 9.8 regular is probably like $400 or $500. The price variant is probably about $1,000 to $1,500.
The Star Wars is a big difference in that book.
Yeah.
Especially with the key. I mean, I know DC has a couple of Mark Jewelers. I think, I want to say like First Killer Croc. I even think of Black Mask they have Mark Jewelers. So, especially when it's the first appearance.
Did you say First Black Mask?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I think mine is. I actually got to look through mine. I think mine is a Mark Jewelers. To be
Alex
honest.
Perez actually has a good comment there. Drew Manchu says the 35 price variants are very hard to come by. Yes, they are. So Alex Perez brings up a good point. We've talked about this in the past, is Canadian price variants. Very famously, I got Dakota North price variant. There's probably the most popular price variant is the Amazing Spider-Man 252. The first black suit in Amazing Spider-Man. The price variant on there, I think, is, I want to say 75 cents. Regular cover is 60 cents. The Canadian price variant is 75 cents. So you got to think, obviously the US dollar is more than the Canadian dollar. Sorry, our Canadian friends. So the price variant is typically like 15, 20% more. And obviously the print runs are a lot lower in Canada. So collectors are all about getting something that is different from the norm. They want something with a lower print run. So great point by Alex Perez, those Canadian price variants. I can't think of Canadian price variant and then a Euro variants. Definitely the Canadian price variant.
Mark Jewelers, you have the Whitman variants too that DDI put out. And I mean, I'm that's something I collect, just Batman books, because I have the regular Batman books, but there are certain books that are Whitman variants that I do look for, and there is one that's pretty pricey
right here. I got a Shogun Warriors #1 Whitman variant. So basically what they were is, I don't think there's a price on them because they were in packages, like a 3-pack that you could buy from Whitman way back in the day. And if now, like remember the Toys R Us packs that they're selling, people are losing their damn minds over those. I remember maybe 8 years ago, I went to Toys R Us when they were still selling comics, and they had image packs. I was getting like the Max #1. I was getting like a Turok all these, like, it was like, no, not Turok. It was Max and the Pit #1 in this kind of like package. And I bought like 10 of them. I just want, because they're only like $5 a pop or 10, and you got like 5 comics in each. And this is when Toys R Us was, just for some reason they were selling the comics. But now Walmart is selling comics and everything. It's just another side thing to do when you're collecting. And I want to talk about this for those who have questions about pressing. I want to show you our friend Rocket Comics, who we obviously is a sponsor of the show, but I want to show you what pressing a comic book can do. And he sent me some samples if you ever want to use our friend Rocket Comics. And this is what pressing a comic. If you think about pressing a comic, think about, I'm going to sound really old when I say this. Think of a pair of trousers and you're going to press them, or a pair of slacks. When's the last time you said slacks or trousers? But basically, if you have a wrinkled pair of pants, what do? You press them and this is what happens. This is the best analogy I can make. And this is from our friend Rocket Comics. If you go Rocket Comics, say Lords of Longbox sent you get 20% off any pressing order. It can be an order of 20 books, but only one order. But so if you're going to send in a bunch of books, send in 10 and you'll get 20% off it. So you can tell this is the before and the after. I mean, these books are really bad. I mean, I seriously doubt he went and wrinkled these in himself. These are customer books that he did himself. Here's a modern book. Look at that Amazing Spider-Man 300. That's amazing. The before and after. First of all, I want to know what the hell that guy was doing with that damn book, because that looks awful. And then I can look at that Daredevil. Man, that's easily a 2.5.
Right.
Unpressed.
Yeah, but
after
look at the
pressing, white. After pressing, dude, that's gone up at least 4.5.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
2 grades. Yeah. I mean, that's a killer job. I mean, our friend, who else does pressing? E-Rod. Well, hey, we're talking about Rocket because he's our sponsor. So,
right.
And I want to show you some things that we talked about on our past collector series is cracking a book, pressing it, and submitting it to CGC. And here's some examples of that. And the reason why I said look for the old labels is because a lot of people didn't press books in the old labels. The best example of that is all the way to the right. You see that Silver Surfer number 3? That's an old label 9.0. Mm-hmm. My man Rocket Comics cracked it, pressed it, resubmitted to CGC, and it went up to 0.4. So another example is that first appearance of Power Girl over there, 8.5, went up a whole grade. And oh
my God, boy,
that's a lot. That's a huge difference.
That's really good.
So you're going from 8.5, 9, 9.2, 9.4, all the way up to a 9.6. That is a significant.
That's awesome. And a couple of examples are there. So he has cracked them and pressed them before. I see a couple of those old label from a 7.5 to an 8.0, but with a signature, which is even great. So if you already got a book that you plan on getting signed, definitely want to get it pressed after it's signed. A lot of people think you can't get a book pressed after. Yeah, of course you can. It's not going to erase the ink. You can get a book pressed after it's signing. And that's why I use my friend Rocket Comics, who's a sponsor of the show, because not only can he press and submit to CGC, he's also a facilitator, meaning he witnesses signature. So hit up our boy, Rocket Comics. You go rocket-comics.com, hit him up on Instagram at rocket.comics, Facebook, Rocket Pressing. It's $10 a book. If you submit 10 books, that's $100. Tell them the Lord sent you. You get 20% off. That's $80 on the pressing discount you get. Con season is right around the corner. So a lot of time people ask, what's pressing? It's something that you need to do. If you're going to submit a book, definitely get it pressed before doing anything. You know what I mean? I meant
you're leaving money on the table if you don't, right, you guys?
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. But another thing of side collecting is looking for those old labels. Because if you think of pressing as somewhat of a trend in the last 4 or 5 years, definitely, right? But 10 years ago, there wasn't a lot of people pressing. So there's a good chance you can get a price grade up. I mean, he showed me a book that was a 9.6 that he pressed to a 9.8. I wouldn't recommend that, but if you feel a little, if you feel a little sassy in your step, go for it, man. But
I do. I got to add, you guys, if you watched my 3 Men in the Basement show about 6 months ago when I did a huge 9.8 karate chop, I had my Teen Titans 2, which was a 9.6. And I sent it to Scott at Rocket Comics, and he had it double signed by Wolfman and Perez, and he had it pressed before. He pressed it before, and that came back a 9.8. And then from a 9.6, it's very, very difficult because it's so minute, but they look for it. And then that book was signed. It was handled by 2 artists and then sent to CGC, and it still came back a 9.8. So, I mean, the proof is in the pudding right there. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Another question here from a man, Matt Forge. Value of white pages versus other page quality.
Good one.
Now, I would say this is dealer's choice. Some people, they don't care. They care more about the grade, but some people are really. What are your thoughts on white page versus off-white or cream? What do you think about that, Otto?
Yeah, I'm torn in between. Our boy Ex-Illusionary is big on the white pages. He's a good friend of Lords and 3 Men. For me, the grade is the grade if it's graded. So sure, I would prefer it to be, off-white to white. It depends on the book, but that's probably, of all the things, how the book presents, the grade, what it looks like. The page quality to me is the last thing I'm looking for. It's not a deal breaker for me at all. I will definitely, if I find a book at a good price, I will go after it, even if it's, cream to off-white. That's about the lowest I'll go. That's the lowest I've actually seen. But when you're talking about books from like the early 60s, like early FF and stuff like that, cream to off-white isn't, it's not, I would say it's bad. It's not bad. It's just, it's borderline common. But if you have, but on the flip side of that, if you get a book from the 60s and it comes back a white pager, then that's a bonus. I only look at it as a bonus, in my opinion. So
for those new to collecting, who only probably read modern, and you probably won't even know what we're talking about, because modern books don't have that issue, because obviously the paper they use doesn't fade, right? I mean, it's glossy, but I would say around the 80s to 90s started, they call it deluxe format, right?
Yeah.
But now all books are like that. But up to that point, everything was using paper. And so obviously as the book sits around longer with environmental things that are affected, I mean, it needs air to breathe. So you'll see sometimes a 9/6 off white pages, and I'm fine with that. But when I see a 9/8 white pages, that's just an extra, like cherry on the top.
yeah,
you know
no, I
what mean?
agree with you. Yeah.
No, definitely.
But there's old books where you'll get a great grade, but what I like is, it's like you said. I think like CGC, they worry more about the cover and how it looks than the 10th page inside is a little cream. Obviously, if it's super super brown and brittle, then that may affect the overall grade. But for the most part, the graders look at the cover, the spine, the staples, and unless the pages are really really brittle and bad, would you get like a ding on it? What do you say, Justin?
I mean, I do have a brittle book. I have a Flash 105. It is brittle, but hey, at the end of the day, it's a 2.0. I'll take it.
Right. It's a Flash 105.
Yeah, it's a Flash 105. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't mind having the difference between, especially Otto. I mean, you're a linear collector. Would you get a 9 if you had a 9/8 on a book and you needed the next book to be a 9/8, and if one was off white and one was white, would you really care about the pages?
Not at all. Not at all. Absolutely not.
I mean, my oldest book, I'm looking at my key collector. I have a Detective Comics 142 from December 1948. It's a 4.5 white pages. So before 1950 to have a white page book, I was blown away. That's the earliest book I have in my collection that has white pages graded.
So Lon, can there be a 9/8 off white page
Yes.
white? Yes, there can,
my
definitely.
God.
Because if let's just say the book is from 1979. Everything is perfect on it, but off white, definitely. I have 9/8s that are off white. I mean, it's just the pages. I mean, what are the graders going to do? Ding you on on nature? It's a tree, right?
I mean, oxygen. You gonna stop oxygen?
But it's like one of those things, man. It's like, kids nowadays, what would they do in the toilet if they didn't have cell phones? It's like, us and, nowadays, new comic books, they're all glossy. You're never ever going to see off white on any new comics unless somebody goes back to paper for some odd awful reason. But, that's a great question, though. But yeah, definitely. There's some choosy collectors that if it's not white pages, like I can deal with off white pages, but if I see something that's only 20 years old and has 10 pages, I'm like, damn, that throws me off a little bit. I'm like, what does it do with it, man? Did he smoke with it all day long?
I know, but for the collectors out there, CGC has a whole grade that you can see the page quality. It goes white pages, and I don't even think brittle is the lowest, you guys. I think there's something below brittle, to be honest with you.
No, brittle's
Brittle's
I think it's called Sanskrit.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody getting
Sandpaper.
I'd like to get the Bible from 1600 graded. Can you guys hook that up for me?
Exactly.
We got time for one more here. This is good. We're going to answer all the questions that were asked of us on the when I posted on the Lord's community page. This one may take a long time though. Regrets. I don't think we have enough time for that.
Regrets.
The do's and don'ts of hunting for books at cons. You know what? We're going to save that because that's a
big one. Yeah,
that's a whole episode because it's a strategies and a courtesy or ethics when bargaining with vendors. Yeah, that's a whole episode. We're going to do a whole episode about Comic-Con. I wouldn't say what etiquette, but probably strategies you use. Basically how to navigate a con, because a lot of people are new to the scene, and we'll tell you the best way to maximize your time at a con on next week's episode. Because when I read that, I was like, man, that's a lot. We can go on for a whole hour talking about the best way. We've talked about it throughout our time here on this show, in spurts, like, hey, I get a facilitator, so I do this. I wait till the last day so I get better deals. But, we'll talk about that ad nauseum. We could do it easily hour in here. Mm-hmm. We can probably do this one really quick. Do you want to do regrets? Or is that for that's too
No,
many?
that's for another show. That's
All right. Somebody asked the best and worst deals experience you had while collecting and any regrets. Holy shit. If you don't have regrets, you ain't collecting. You ain't,
Yeah.
at least you're not trying. I mean, it's part of the game.
Mhm.
Hits and misses. That's why, like everything we talked about, things are subject to change. It happens all the time. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
we're getting good advice. We're getting data up very early. So when we tell it, hopefully it'll happen. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but our track record's been pretty good so far. So you know what? We're going to go with it. IG and Facebook versus eBay. I'm assuming he means buying.
Yeah.
I would say selling. If you don't have a lot of followers on social media, put it on eBay, because
Right.
eBay, especially if you have a hot book, throw it on eBay. You'll have thousands and thousands of people watching it. If you have a good following on Instagram and people trust you, I would say Instagram is a good way of doing it. What do you guys think? What do you guys say between IG, Facebook, and eBay? I try to stay away from Facebook, to be honest with you, for buying and selling, but go ahead.
Yeah, I do. I do a lot of window shopping on Facebook, but I do much more buying on Instagram, because I feel that, you're not going to pay the fees, the eBay fees and stuff like that. And I really truly believe that the people in the Instagram community, between Lords of the Long Box, 3 Men in the Basement, Comic Core, all the guys, we're pretty tight.
NY Warriors, yeah.
NY Warriors, and everybody's pretty tight and everybody's honest. And more importantly, we police ourselves, and I think you're going to get better prices. And
that's one more thing we didn't bring up between
Yeah.
IG, Facebook, and eBay is YouTube auctions.
Yes,
Mhm.
right.
Killer
that could be
deals
a
can be
whole-
made on
that's a whole
YouTube
show,
auctions. So you got NY Warriors, Comic Core, 3 Men in the Basement. You know what? Lords and Long Box may be having an auction soon, because I got way too many books sitting around. So
Yeah.
we've been talking about it for a
definitely prefer
minute.
to buy on it. I buy a lot on Instagram.
What about you, Justin?
I mean, I sell more on eBay because of the fact that, yeah, like you said, I mean, there's people all across the world that are looking at this book.
Yeah.
But I think Instagram is good if you're trying to, or even Facebook, if you have like those hot books or graded books, that's usually what people go for. I mean, I just started an Instagram seller page. I'm actually going to hit enter right there. So if you guys are checking it out, that's my new Instagram shop. I literally posted books this past week. I sold some books. I sold a 9.8 First Miles Morales and some other good books, and it was in 3 days. And
Right.
that's just from me, from my followers, from my regular page, just telling them about it. So I mean, it is possible you can sell stuff, because I do, the best thing is obviously you have to use the hashtag, either comic books for sale, comics for the number sale,
Yeah.
or comics for sale. That's what you have to use.
Yeah, I use 4 hashtags: comics for sale,
Mhm.
and comics the number for sale, and then
Correct.
comics COMIX for sale, and comics IXFOR for sale.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
For those who've been on Instagram, and that's you have to use hashtags if you want to get seen. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, I get like 30 tags a day. And I appreciate everybody, but Instagram, we've been kicking it around for like since 2012, 2013. We haven't talked about raffles. Raffles is another way. I've gotten my Hulk 181 through a raffle. I spent $30 and I won. I mean, but be careful. If you just, it's fun. It's like gambling. You're not expecting to win all the time, but if you just say 20 bucks, yeah,
You
but
win
I'll be able
big.
to tell this about raffles, man. It's a weird thing. You get on these streaks where you win like 3 and then like 3 months, and then you don't win shit for like a year.
I'm so cold right now.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing about raffling also is if you're selling and people don't know you, don't raffle. You're
Right.
not going to be able to
You're not
close.
going to get it.
Right. And raffle pages like Gem Mint, C Shaver, 00. I mean, these guys have thousands, and they're known for raffles. But like people have asked me, hey, can you raffle this for me? And I was like, I would do it, but I'm not known for that. Even when I do it myself, it's a pain in the ass. And leave it to other people who do it professionally, or who've done it and have experience doing it. If you don't have a lot of followers and you want to raffle, be very careful too. There's if you don't know what you're doing, you can get branded really quickly on Instagram. And the good thing about Instagram, like Otto said, is we police ourselves, right? Somebody does a raw deal, they do somebody dirty, boom, they get blown up on Instagram. It is kind of funny, actually. I felt bad for that one dude who had like the bootleg art from Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld.
God.
Oh, yeah.
Man, poor guy. So PGX and CBCS verified some signatures that this guy got. And not only was the signature bunk, but also the art was bunk. So he said McFarlane, Jim Lee, and Rob Liefeld had sketched these and then signed it. So basically about 2 years ago, all 3 of the graders started grading art. right? So you could just send in like a piece of an original art, right? And they would grade it. And this guy, he was so happy, he shared on Instagram, and immediately like Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, they all replied back to this. There was one guy, Neil, I think it was Neil Adams, said, "Oh no, this one is actually mine." But then he looked at another one because this one isn't though.
Right.
He gave the guy a ray of hope, and then he just said, "No."
Hold it right out from under him.
Yeah, and that guy, poor guy disappeared because he was getting blown up. But so me, like eBay, if the book is hot and I want to get as many eyes on it, you know what I mean? Boom. Yeah. Like if I had a Werewolf by Night 32, like also you have to be realistic and realize not a lot of people have tons of money. Like on Instagram, there's probably like 20 cats who have money that can buy $1,000 book. Everybody else is looking. There's a sweet spot, right? Like I would say $50 to $100, $25 to $50. That's a sweet spot on Instagram where tons of people will buy it. If you have a good rapport, make friends on Instagram. It's social media for a reason, right? I mean, you tag, you interact with people, you send instant messages. My man KP Henderson, one of the coolest cats on Instagram. I'll work out deals where I'm like, "Hey man, can I do a payment plan?" He goes, "Yeah, put down, here's what somebody's selling $1,000 book, do this." Say, "Hey man, did you get any offers yet?" And I said, "No." "Hey, can I do a payment plan?" And then typically this is what I recommend. Put a down payment of half of it first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't just tell them to hold it. This way they know you're serious. Then you give yourself, work out a time with them. Say, "Can I pay it off every 2 weeks on my payday or whatever?" Another way, I mean, we don't have time to get into it now, but on eBay, to get a grail, this is what I do. When I say a grail, I mean, if you're going to spend like $600 on up, use PayPal credit. You can have PayPal pay for a PayPal credit and no interest for 6 months.
Yes.
So if you buy a $600 book, just say, "All right, I am going to pay $100 a month for this book and I'll be paid off in 6 months and there's no interest on it." So you're almost using it as a zero interest credit card. And I think that's a great way on eBay. I mean, besides the fees, but you're buying anyway. So it's not really, fees are more for sellers, but if you're buying, it's a great way to get a $600 book, $500 book, $1,000 book. You got 6 months to pay it off. Right. And so that's what I recommend people. If you want to go get like, whatever your big boy book, if it's $200, I think the minimum you have to spend to use that zero APR is $99. So as soon as you buy something on eBay over $99, they'll tell you, "Hey, do you want to use PayPal credit?" Build up your PayPal credit just like everything else, like a credit card, and you can up your PayPal credit. I think mine's like at 5,000 now because I have a problem with PayPal credit. I don't ever really go that high, but I'm just like, you know what? One day
it's a good thing. It's 100% a good thing. Sometimes I buy $1,000
book. Yeah. And
it doesn't even have to be. And also just so everyone out there it doesn't have to be an eBay purchase. You can pay via PayPal credit if you're paying somebody. There is a small fee.
There's a small fee. Yeah.
But still at the end of the day, like Tim said, I mean, you can still pay it off in 6 months. There's no interest. I'll take like a $4 fee today to not have, interest and just pay it off in 6 months. So easy.
I mean, yeah, you can do friends and family using PayPal credit. A lot of people don't realize that. And sometimes it's hard to do it on the app, but if you log into paypal.com, it's easier to select PayPal credit. So if you're just sending friends and family, you can actually pay them by PayPal credit and they won't know any difference. And then you pay it off whenever your leisure is. And if you're going to spend that much money and, a lot of times people, "Hey, I can't afford $800 right out of my checking account, but let me spread that $800 over 6 months. That's not so bad, right? Think about what your cell phone bill is.
Jeez.
Right? Am I right? Holy cow. Shout out to JW Statues for the $50 super chat. I appreciate you, brother. Hey, you guys need to go check out JW Statues channel. He has some of the coolest statue reviews ever. I really want him to work on our graphics because he does some killer stuff with his the green screen background. And his daughter's in there acting. She's going to overtake him pretty soon. Once she starts doing videos, she's going to easily get like 2 million subs. But big shout out to JW Statues.
Thank you very much.
Super chat, brother, man. Guys, there's super chat. JW Statue says, "Guys, our new video will be out tomorrow. Get your popcorn and your bug spray ready." I will definitely peep that out. So make sure you sub up GW Statues and hit the notification button so you will see his video when it drops tomorrow. We're right at the 7:00 hour. We're going to check out now. Go check out our friends at the Comic Core. I think they're going live. Let me go check right now on that if they're live. Set reminder scheduled for what's today? Okay, yeah, they are going to go live here. I will go peep out our friends at the Comic Core. So then you get back-to-back stuff right there. Any last words, Otto or Justin? Let's go with Justin first.
No, I just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. It's been fun. I mean, the collector series is always is good to talk about. And of course, definitely these spec books tonight were some rare ones. So, now's the time to buy them, guys. They're really cheap. So go out and buy them. Otto.
Yeah. Thank you very much for everybody that's watching. Set those reminders for Friday night, 9 o'clock for 3 Men in the Basement. We're coming to you live. We have comic book dealer royalty. We have the First Family coming on with us. We have Reese's Rare Comics. For those of you guys who go to the big shows, you guys know that they've got a great booth. Austin Reese is going to come live with us for an hour, talk about everything that he's experienced, what it is to be a dealer of his with his family, and how it works. So set those reminders, guys. 9 o'clock, 3 Men in the Basement this Friday. Thank you.
Yeah, and I've known the Reese brothers for quite a few years now. Old man Reese no longer he's pretty much retired. There's the 3 Men in the Basement channel. Make sure you sub them up right there. Make sure you sub up GW Statues as well. Yeah, man, we are long-time suffering Redskin fans, me and the Reese boys, man. See them all the time. We always talk about it. Yeah, Sith Lordly actually, I helped Sith Lordly get himself Hulk 181 at WonderCon through the Reese boys, man.
There you go.
So,
nice.
Good, man. Reaching out, touching people, man. I like to reach out and touch some people, man. So shout out to everybody in live chat. Still 101 of you watching. Go peep out the Comic Core after this. Check out JW Statues. Check out 3 Men in the Basement. Shout out to all the 37 thumbs down that we receive on tonight's show. I don't know why, but we're going to keep on doing it. So keep them thumbs ready, boys and girls. Until as always, okay, I'm thirsty and I'm hungry. So until next time, boys and girls, keep digging in them long boxes and peace out.
Peace.
Bust it. Shake and bake and pull it back.